Welcome back to Silverstone. We're here for a day of Formula 3 and GT. Formula 3 drivers making themselves ready for the third and final race of their weekend. The British GT teams are on track. This weekend they have one race only, but it's a 3-hour race and the grid is pretty much formed. Yesterday, the car to beat in qualifying was BMW. It will start at the front of the grid, and surrounded by this mouth-watering assortment of GT cars on track is Gary Champion.
Yes, thanks very much, David. If you're short, it doesn't sort of help down here because there's way too many people. Thankfully, Lawrence Tomlinson, if I did that, actually you look a lot taller, is with us. And no, don't please. Is with us. Lawrence, this is a packed grid, and to be fair, this shows the popularity of British GTs and how it's really come on.
Yeah, SRO have done an amazing job in building the grids, and it's a fantastic series that Ginetta are just delighted to support. I think we've actually got 9 cars running today. We've certainly got 3 GT3 cars, and I believe it's 6 GT4 cars. So, Ginetta supporting SRO, and a fantastic race ahead, I believe.
Well, my maths isn't very good, but I make that about a quarter of the grid.
Yeah, historically Ginetta's have made up about 30% of the British GT grid, and with the extra grid today we're still 20%, and we're just delighted to be here, and a British car at the home of British Motorsport, Silverstone, what could be better? And
when you came in this morning, I saw that you did a little lap of the circuit in the helicopter. Was that just to check it all out?
Yeah, well, we did a lap round because I've actually filmed the paddock from the air with my Twitter feed. So if anybody wants to have a look at the video, I've tweeted that up there, Lawrence LNT. So yeah, wonderful. But what I'd like to sort of say is that Ginetta are bringing people into motorsport all the time, and that helps create these grids. So we have our junior series and our Ginetta academies that help develop the people, and it's not just people who are racing Ginettas today here like this one. It's people who've come through, like say Lee Mole, who we've helped with his, and other, and actually team owners and team managers, and we train engineers and they develop and move away from us and come back to us. So Ginetta are just trying their very best to help British motorsport in general.
You do a very good job of it, Lawrence. Thanks very much. Let us walk the grid and see what else we can find. Come Brownie this way, and we'll see. We've got United Motorsports car here. Let's just see if we can find it. Zach Brown. I suspect Zach has got his helmet on, so this is not going to work awfully well. And we don't really like helmet interviews, but we'll just give it a whirl. Zach, I don't really like doing helmet interviews, but we'll give it a whirl. You're the boss man and so on, and you're starting the race.
Yep, you get to make that decision because I'm the boss. Actually, this is probably the best strategy for us. Puts Alvaro in to finish the race, which we're assuming there's going to be some safety cars. So we need to make sure we're there at the end, and if we are, that we've got Alvaro in the car. Okay,
great. Zach Brown, thanks very much indeed. United Autosports, as you can see, there's 3 of their cars here. Let's go take a look at what else we might have. Mark Blundell is somewhere. We'll see if we can catch with him in just a moment. We'll do this. Someone else does a sort of walk like this, and I think they might do it slightly better, but we'll give it a whirl and see how we get on. We've got drivers aplenty here. You can see a really packed grid, which is great because, as I say, we've got 47 cars on the grid today, so that's really good to see. Right, we've got a driver here. Let's see if we can see it. No, helmet on. So we'll just see that's the Andrew Howard Jonathan Adam car that we've got there. See who else we might be able to find. If we can I thought we might have more second drivers out of cars and so on. Right. He's helmeted. He's ready. He's ready to go. Who chooses who's first to go?
Team manager. As drivers, it's one less thing we can get the blame for, basically. The logic behind it is that the safety car is more probable at the start of the race, so you'd rather have a gent driver stuck behind the safety car than a pro. Obviously can't make any inroads, so it's a calculated risk. The pro If you could start as a pro, as Bobby's doing next to us, if he gets clear air, then it's a great strategy. It's a high risk one, it's kind of win or bust on that.
Okay. And in terms of weather, it's a warm day here at Silverstone. Is that good for you guys in this car?
Yeah, brilliant. The BMW is the best car on the grid on its tyres, so obviously the heat brings up high tyre degradation, so that works with us better. So the hotter the better for us, and yeah, we'll keep the weather coming.
Okay, great. All right, thanks very much indeed. Joe Osborne. And let's just move along. Now, Gregor Fiskin's car is here, but Gregor is in the car. So that is Gregor Fiskin that is in the car with Richard Westbrook as his co-driver. And I thought Richard would be here, but he's not. But anyway, as the cars are on grid, they're beginning to leave grid now. Let's come back to us here at Silverstone after this break.
Welcome back to Silverstone. The cars are leaving the grid, ready for round 4 of the Avon Tyres British GT Championship. A 3-hour race is about to get underway. It is a mighty grid, 47 cars. We have, although notice, 1 or 2 gaps on the grid. In fact, one of the Acuria Cos BMWs missing, and also one of the Dutch GT4 teams missing from the back of the grid. David Addison and Gary Champion at Silverstone, and the grid headed by Oliver Bryant, who did the pole time. Marco Attard will start with David Ashburn alongside him on the front of the grid. Behind them comes Gregor Fiskin and John Minshaw, Lee Mole and Matteo Bobby starting, and he's going to be one to watch in the black Ferrari in the first stint, ahead of Steve Tandy and Hector Lester, Andrew Howard, and then Benji Hetherington round out the top 10 on the grid. Behind them you find Tom Sharp and Duncan Cameron in the AF Corsa run Ferrari. Then Gregoire de Moustier sharing with Duncan Tappy, British GT debut for Duncan, and that's going to be another potential winning car, I reckon. Gary Eastwood is ahead of Steve Watt and then Zach Brown. After him, you will find Ahmed Al-Hathi, Richard Sykes, John Gore and John Dillon. Mark Patterson is ahead of Rambert Berg, then it's Klaus Hummel, Derek Johnston. Mark Poole starts his Aston Martin. Charles Putnam in the Pro Speed Porsche. Mark Blundell is going to be next, ahead of Ron Johnson, Ian Stinton and then Dom Evans in the Audi. Phil Burton starts from 31st on the grid, ahead of Jack Dwyver. Then it's Jamie Stanley. Former festival winner Ricardo van der Ende is 34th, ahead of Dan Eagling. Some of these cars now with the 4 prefix on the number, the 3-digit number in the GT4 class. You find Duncan Houseman ahead of Jan Joris Verhoeven and Adam Christodoulou. Declan Jones is ahead of Ryan Ratcliffe to round out the top 40 on the grid, and still they come, because you've got Rob Severs ahead of Nigel Farmer, and then it is the Alex Osborne Ginetta ahead of Fabio Motta. Then Steve Chaplin, winner at Rockingham, is next, ahead of Nicky Pastorelli. Although that car was missing off the grid is completed by Rory Bryant. It may be, therefore, that we have a couple starting from the pit lane in 3 hours of racing. Starting from the pit lane is perhaps not the biggest of disadvantages. Now, we've talked about the fact that there are going to be driver changes. There's a bit more to British GT, and you need to factor this in as well. First of all, everybody has to make a pit stop, and they're not natural pit stops like in other endurance categories. They are to a time. If you're a GT3 car, your pit stop has to be a minimum pit in to pit out, including the stop of 130 seconds for a refuelling stop, that is, not, for example, just changing a tyre or bodywork repairs. If it is for a GT4 car, it's 190 seconds. Add to that, if you're in the top 3 in the previous round, your last pit stop has to have an extra time element to it. So number 32, as an example, which won last time out Gregor Fiskin and Richard Westbrook, when they make their 3rd mandatory stop, everybody must make 3, they will have to do 130 seconds plus 20 more, because that is the success penalty gained at Rockingham. So there's an awful lot to change over the course of the race. 1 or 2 cars, because of their driver combinations, have extra weight. Ahmed Al-Hathi and Michael Caine is considered an exotic driver combination. They get 75 kilos. Gregoire de Moustier and Duncan Tappy, they also carry 75. So too, Mark Blundell and Jody Firth, James May and Alex Osborne have a bit more weight, again because of the driver categorisation, which is platinum, gold, silver and bronze. And if you do have 2 of a given grade together, you must carry weight to compensate for the perceived greater ability and pace of the drivers. There's going to be an awful lot to look at, an awful lot to think about, and bear in mind over the course of 3 hours of racing. And that's just the strategy part of it. There's also going to be some stunning racing on track. Lots of different shapes and sizes and different noises as well, represented on a British GT grid. It's probably, it is fair to say now, the strongest domestic GT championship and 47 cars headed by Marco Attard sprint their way out of Luffield in towards Woodcote Corner. 3 hours of racing for round 4 of the Avon Tyres British GT Championship is about to get underway. Then any second now, the lights go out. The race director Bernard Cottrell gets them away, and as they run down towards Copse Corner, Marco Attard on the inside line, David Ashburn, and then John Minshaw with him on the outside line turn their way through as the cars accelerate round Copse. And there's drama already because that is Matteo Bobbi who's got himself in strife. He was expected to run away and hide early on, but it's David Ashburn who leads Attard. John Minshaw is third for track speed, and then Gregor Fiskin is in 4th place with Ben Hetherington's Mercedes 5th as they wriggle their way through the Beckett's S's for the first time. And somebody else in grief is Rob Severs, rejoining after a spin at Copse Corner on the very first lap of the race. Matteo Bobbi, former FIA GT champion, he was expected, and you heard it from drivers on the grid saying he probably should sprint away, but it's a bit win or bust if he doesn't make the most of the first stint. David Ashburn leading for track speed, being challenged by Marco Attard, going down towards Stoke Corner, and that's John Gore in the blue and black Aston Martin Racing sales director, almost coming to grief with Gregoire de Muslier. The cars touch them. John Gore, former Caterham champion, very, very quick indeed, gaining places. Almost, though, put himself in strife going into Stowe for the first time. I wouldn't think it was a 3-hour race, would you, the way that some of them are going? So as they come through Club Corner for the first time, looking at one of the 888 Optimum BMWs there, that was Lee Mole's car getting forced out a little bit wide in number 16 as well, the Ginetta of Richard Sykes, that too losing a bit of ground. With Ben Hetherington in the number 14 Mercedes, and he too is making progress, and he's on the back of Gregor Fiskin. Look as they come up now towards Village for the first time. So far this year, Track Speed with its Porsches has won each of the 3 races, but a different driver combination each time out, and a David Ashburn sideways second place Porsche is going after the leading BMW of Marco Attard. You're on board with Hetherington, glorious noise from the Mercedes. But he's not missed a race this season yet in the British GT Championship. You can't keep a good man down. And David, who shares with Nick Tandy, and therefore is a potential winner, because David might be an AM, might be in his 60s, but he's very, very quick on his day. He's got John Minshaw behind him. There he is. John began in modern racing, but very much a historic star in recent years. And Ben Hetherington comes now out of Woodcote. He shares the car with Jason Minshaw, John's brother. Is he going to go to the inside of Gregor Fiskin? Not there, he's not. Those 2 cars came to grief at the first corner of the first race at Alton Park, and now the Mercedes tries to get the run on the Track Speed Porsche, heading up now towards Maggots. Fantastic stuff this. Hetherington's got the inside line for Beckett's. He takes the place, and going with them is Tom Sharp in the Ginetta. Round the outside of the middle of Beckett's. Great bit of driving by Tom Sharp. It gives him the place. He's a little bit sideways coming through Beckett's, but Sharp has gained the position, and that was really brave stuff. Gregor Fiskin, who is experienced in modern sports cars as much as in historic sports cars, drops back a little bit now. That car shared with Richard Westbrook, expected to fly later in the race. Behind them, Hector Lester is 7th. Steve Tandy runs 8th, John Gore 9th, and Gregoire de Muslier 10th in the McLaren. Now 78, the Curiacos BMW I mentioned was missing from the grid. Fuel pump failure is the reason that we lost the unrelated Piers and Ron Johnson combination before the race began. Big disappointment. So it's now down to Marco Attard and Oliver Bryant, who did the pole time yesterday, to uphold honours for that team. The Curiacos cars run by Barwell, Mark Lemmer's team. Now Mercedes versus Ginetta. 2 very different brands. Tom Sharp in the orange car, right up behind Ben Hetherington, who is right up behind John Minshaw. Dare one suggests that David Ashburn is holding them up a little bit. The Demon Tweaks Porsche to the outside line. John Minshaw looking for a way through, but he can't do it as they come into Village. Tom Sharp, who was one of the drivers that Lawrence Tomlinson was alluding to, who's come through the Ginetta ladder, really. Started off in the Junior Championship, then into the Super Cup, now into GT racing. This is Ben Hetherington's view, and that, in trouble in Ferrari 28, having had a spin, is the Australian driver Steve White. Gets back onto the circuit. He shares the car with Michele Rugolo, who will be very quick in it, but that's cost them a lot of time already. David Ashburn keeping John Minshaw at bay, and Minshaw looking as though he should really be able to make some progress if he could get through. Marco Attard leading, but not by very much. The BMW Z4 has always been a good car around here. You heard Joe Osborne saying on the grid how it's good on its tyres in this weather. 12 months ago, they were the cars to beat in the Blancpain Endurance Series race on this circuit, Mark VDS winning. And now Hetherington goes for the inside against Minshaw, going into Copse, backs out of it. John Minshaw sticks out his elbows. This is the fight for 3rd place, and John Gore running 7th in the Kinfan. Aston Martin has done the best lap of the race thus far. He is starting now to get onto the back of Gregor Fiskin's Porsche. Look in the background there, the last car in shot going into Beckett's, lights ablaze, is John Gore. This is Ben Hetherington, and there's a whole queue of cars for second place. David Ashburn, John Minshaw, Ben Hetherington, then Tom Sharp, then Gregor Fiskin, and John Gore is almost up with them. And we've only done 6 minutes. Down towards Stoke Corner they come. Minshaw again has a look on the inside line. David Ashburn fends him off. They turn through the corner. John Minshaw took his first British GT win at Alton Park on home soil in round 1. And that was because the spotty car of Ashburn and Tandy got out of the way. Team orders let Minshaw through. David Ashburn saying, well, I'm not doing the whole season, so it's not important for me to win races. Well, as I say, he won the second race at Alton, he raced at Rockingham, and he's at Silverstone, so some retirement this is. Making their way now towards Abbey. David Ashburn running second, John Minshaw third, and the car, and that off the road is Hector Lester in the Ferrari he shares with Alan Simonson. That's at the end of Vale, and that is disaster for the Ulsterman. It doesn't have Alan Simonson's quest very much. That car could possibly even lose a lap while it gets out of the gravel here. They're on board with Hetherington. Minshaw is ahead of him. This is the loop from which they turn into Aintree and then down Wellington Straight. Look at this traffic jam for second place. John Gore now on the back of it. The Aston Martin right up behind the Porsche of Gregor Fiskin. Got the cars going through Brooklands, and now Hetherington on the inside of John Minshaw using the curb. He's going to be on the outside at Luffield. Can he get past 2 Porsches in one move? Let's see. He's round the outside of Minshaw. David Ashburn bottling them all up. Hetherington on the outside. Minshaw on the inside at Woodcote, but he does lose out. That was really good stuff by Hetherington. The move started 2 corners back, and he comes through then to pick up 1 place over the timing line. You're on board with the Cheshire driver now, and he goes diving up on the problem, or is he just genuinely not as quick as those around him? At the moment, he's a little bit harder to gauge, but the cars now make their way towards Abbey. This is lap number 4. Marco Attard is leading the way now by over 3 seconds. He's been helped in that because of all the squabbling going on behind him. The fastest lap thus far has been done by John Gore. And Hector Lester, we saw slithering off the road a little while ago. This is what happened. He was not alone in that, was he? Lee Mole's BMW. 888 Optimum car, and there was another as well involved in that. 27, Matteo Bobbi having his second drama of the race. Hector Lester is currently in 43rd position. He's back in the race, but for him and Alan Simonson, it's going to be one long afternoon, that's for sure now. We're coming up towards the end of lap number 4. Attard leading at the start of the lap by over 3 seconds. Thus far, it is looking good for the Acuria Cos BMW. There in number 9, McLaren, is Gregoire de Moustier, and he is the next driver to try to find a way past David Ashburn. Down to Cops Corner they come. So as they turn through the right hand of the order is Attard leading, which was ever thus. Hetherington's Mercedes second, John Minshaw third, Tom Sharp's Ginetta going very strongly in 4th, John Gore Aston Martin 5th, Gregor Fiskin 6th. This for 7th, Porsche versus McLaren, and there's the Aston Martin of Andrew Howard, the ice cream man. Peachdene Ice Cream is his business right there behind. So Porsche, McLaren and Aston Martin, 3 delectable brands all squabbling together onto Hanger Straight. But again, you see David Ashburn is just struggling for pace against those cars around him, and notably against his teammates who are really scarpering now. John Minshaw under attack from Tom Sharp. Ashburn in the white spotty Porsche down towards Stowe, and Gregoire de Moustier is going to go all the way around the outside of the Von Ryan Racing McLaren. This is Sharp against Minshaw at the end of Vale. Ginetta on the outside line, can he go through? Fabulous battling going on, but the lead battle is coming down and down. It was 3.3 seconds, it is now down to 9/10. Ben Hetherington, the quickest man on the circuit. Last lap was a 2:07, and he's almost up on the back of Marco Attard. Marco, many years racing in Ferraris. He has been a BMW racer within the last 12 months, also had a go in a Lamborghini, but it looks as though the top 3 that we have is going to remain that way. Ollie Bryant then up now towards Abbey. The BMW, great looking and great sounding car, that is on target for a win. But just look at the cars that he's between, because Alan Simonson, who is behind him, of course, is in real terms getting closer to Charles Espenlaub for 10th place. He might even try and unlap himself from the BMW. Yes, he is trying to do that, and Ollie Bryant has been well advised to let him go. He doesn't need to get involved in any silliness, so let him go. And now Alan Simonson has got a chance, because he's got one more lap now in which to do it, to get past the Porsche and take 10th place for himself and Hector Lester. Ollie Bryant, who got involved, if you remember, in the championship decider last year when he turfed Matt Griffin out of the way and got a penalty for it, has redeemed himself now, I think, because this has been a very, very impressive drive coming up towards Luffield, turning his way through the final corner at Woodcote. The checkered flag is being prepared, and so for Ecuriakos it's going to be a victory at Silverstone for Marco Attard and Ollie Bryant. The BMW comes across the line to win. It's the first non-Porsche victory of the season in British GT, but it's a fourth different winning combination in 4 races. Marco Attard, who has done his work, now affords himself a big smile, deservedly so. Johnny Adam comes through for second place with Andrew Howard in the fastest ice cream van in the world, the Aston Martin run by Beechdene Ice Cream, and for third, Dan Brown and Steve Tandy in a car that has been there or thereabouts all day, and it's there when it matters. Dan Brown, again, another of those very Dan Brown-like races where he just gets on with it and delivers the results without a huge amount of fuss. Fourth is going to be Warren Hughes, that car I think losing out because of the extra time it had on its last pit stop, and Matt Griffin is going to be on for fifth. Now, of the British GT4 teams, and everybody will score points in British GT4, but of the regular British teams, this, Rick Parfitt Jr., he's going to be the winner. He comes up towards Luffield, the car that he shares with Ryan Ratcliffe, and so Rick Parfitt Jr. turning his way now as third in GT4, but the best of the regular British registered teams. He will come through to win the internal part of GT4, if you like, the race within a race, and he comes across the line now to be third GT4, which has been won by Adam Christodoulou and Jürgen Veerban, ahead of Ricardo van der Ende and Bernhard van Oranje. There they are, as close on the slowing down lap as they've been for much of the race, and Rick Parfitt Jr. coming home for third in GT4, and with Ryan Ratcliffe, the best of those that are regulars in the British Championship. Now, we're not done yet, because for 8th, Aaron Scott has got Michael Caine right up behind him. Michael recovering after his stop-go penalty. Is he going to be able to get past on the run-up towards the checkered flag? Look at this, 8th spot, Ferrari versus Porsche. It shows how the balance of performance works. Over the timing line, absolutely together. Aaron Scott takes 8th place by 2/10 ahead of Michael Caine. But what about 10th? Because Charles Espinelav was ahead of Alan Simonson when they started the lap. We will see who is going to be 10th when they get to the line. But let's hear from one of the winners, Marco Attard, because he is with Gary Champion.
Yes, he is, David. And, well, I was going to say a very happy man, but you look still terribly tense, Marco.
That's the longest 20 minutes of my life, I think, at the end there. I mean, Ollie's done a great job, but that's hard work watching those screens. Anyway, it's fantastic news, really good news.
And I mean, we spoke to you way back at the beginning of the race, which must seem like sort of a weekend ago, and then it was, you know, you were chuffed to bits then. Did you think that it was going to be a win?
It was looking doubtful. You know, I was just so worried about, you know, the mix-up when we got caught up in the traffic and all that. But you know, it came together. Ollie's done a great job, and it's just so exciting. It's absolutely so happy.
I thought it was very sweet that you actually just at the last there, literally the last few hundred yards, and your little hands came together almost to pray.
Yeah, some of my friends might say something else about that, but yes, okay. Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, still worried until he gets past the line.
Well, you've got plenty of wine, and I assume that it will flow happily.
Yeah, absolutely. I think tonight we ought to be celebrating. So yeah, we'll get some out tonight.
Brilliant, Marco. Thanks very much. Well done. That's very good. There you go, Marco Attard.
And he, as Gary says, he's looking combination of happy and relieved. Just to finish off the top 10, Alan Simonson didn't get past Charles Espinelav on the last lap. He missed out by 0.182 of a second. That was all, but it couldn't have been much closer. Well, there is a car that's done a very good job all day. Look, barely a mark on it. It has gone like clockwork, and it's a win for Marco Attard and for Ollie Bryant. BMW takes its first British GT win of the 2013 season. Aston Martin arrives second, Johnny Adam and Andrew Howard, and BMW for third, thanks to Dan Brown and Steve Tandy. And so the drivers in a few moments will make their way up to the podium. And here at Silverstone, still to come, we have Formula 3, Ginetta and Volkswagen racing to look forward to, as there, out of the car, gets Ollie Bryant. He has been a winner at Silverstone in the past in historics, and now adds a very good modern GT win. Is embraced by Marco Attard, and Mark Lemmer will be down there somewhere, no doubt, as the team boss. Ollie Bryant still to take off his crash helmet. Second generation racer, his dad Graham, who was a sports car racer a long time ago, had a few years off to build up his business, and has come back with a very nice collection of historic cars. There is Mark Lemmer in the headset, dwarfed by the drivers celebrating. And in GT4, Bernhard van Oranje and Ricardo van der Ende second in the class. Embrace the class winners Adam Christodoulou and Jörg Wiebahn. There's Ollie Bryant, all smiles then, as he can celebrate a win. Johnny Adam is there. That's Steve Tandy behind in the sunglasses with his first podium of the season. Steve switching from track speed to the BMWs with 888 this year. Let's hear from the winner, Gary. Ollie Bryant is all yours.
Well, I have to say, Ollie Bryant, the smile is much better than the... Wow, no, he's got one now, look. Now the relief is there. But the boss, if I can call him that, was very, very tense in that last, 20 minutes, I think.
Yeah, no, it was a very exciting race. I mean, at the start, it got very chaotic. Lots of people were pushing very, very hard for a 3-hour race. And we knew that to get a result, we just had to stay out of trouble. Marco did a good job hanging on to pole at the start. And, no, it was really... just staying out of trouble, that was the key. I mean, there were people crashing left, right and centre and bits of carbon fibre all over the track, so several times I thought I'd picked up punctures, but fortunately it wasn't the case, so really lucky. The team did a fantastic job with the car. Balance was really good this weekend, and it's fantastic, just really, really pleased. Marco, obviously as well, a great result for him after disappointment we had at Rockingham, so really pleased to get the top step.
Okay, I think he might be able to spare 12 bottles of wine as a sort of, well done, to be honest.
Yeah, it'd be fantastic.
That's right. Thanks very much indeed, David.
Yeah, you see at the moment all Marco's given Ollie is a bottle of water, which doesn't really come close to what Ollie would like to celebrate with, but I think the champagne will be on the podium. And there is Andrew Howard after a very, very good run for that team. There's always bags of potential, but as I said during the race, Andrew, often through no fault of his own, ends up being caught up in a bit of grief, but the car has kept out of the wars. That's another team that's going to be here next week in the Blancpain Endurance Series race. Johnny Adam is there, Andrew Howard is there, and so too is Gary.
Well, I have to say, the ice cream's fantastic, but it won't be anywhere near as good as second place, will it, for you boys?
That was absolutely stunning. Hope you enjoyed your ice cream.
I loved it. Thanks very much indeed. Yeah, I had a 3-tub stop.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, absolutely fantastic. I mean, all credit to the guys in front. Great race, but for us, I mean, starting 8th with the melee and 3 hours, fantastic.
Yeah, it was incident filled, I think, wasn't it? There was plenty of stuff to avoid out there.
It was, and everyone was having their own battle. There were quite a few GT4 cars here, which is great to see, and they're having a race within themselves, so you have to give a bit of track room out there, but stunning result for the team. P2, kind of just keeping tabs with the BM there, but yeah, great result for the Aston.
Fantastic, guys. Thanks very much indeed. David.
Thanks, Gary. Good to hear from the Aston Martin drivers then, Johnny Adam and Andrew Howard, and as I say, Dan Brown and Steve Tandy finishing in 3rd place. Well, a very dramatic 3 hours. An awful lot has happened, and there is much to reflect upon and discuss as the drivers head to the podium here after the break. Welcome back to Silverstone. Our day of British GT Formula 3 will continue shortly with the next of the races for the Volkswagen Cup. But let's just confirm the results of the Avantage British GT Championship. 4th round, a win for Marco Attard and Ollie Bryant from Andrew Howard and Johnny Adam. 3rd to Steve Tandy and Dan Brown, ahead of Rembert Berg and Warren Hughes. Then Duncan Cameron and Matt Griffin, with Mark Poole and Richard Abbott riding out the top 6. They were ahead of Steve Wyatt and Michele Rugolo, John Dillon and Aaron Scott 8th, ahead of Atman Al-Hati and Michael Caine. With the Charleses, Putnam and Espen Laub just 10th by 1/10 of a second from Hector Lester and Alan Simonson. Gary Eastwood 12th, ahead of Rob Bath. Hetherington and Minshaw 13th, ahead of the Mercedes of Hummel and Steve Jans. And let's have a look at the GT4 order lower down the classification, because that was won outright by Adam Christodoulou and Jörg Wiebahn, but Ryan Ratcliffe and Rick Parfitt Jr., the best of the Brits in their Ginetta, 3rd in the overall GT4 contest. So we have then the drivers up on the podium. And on the top step of the GT4 podium then, Adam Christodoulou and Jörg Wiebahn, with the Ricardo van der Ende and Bernhard van Oranje combination for 2nd, and 3rd already with their trophies, Ryan Ratcliffe and Rick Parfitt Jr. And the trophies now will go to the winning drivers, and that will go the way of Adam Christodoulou and Jörg Wiebahn.
also in the hands of Adam. They hold the trophies high to the crowd down there, and a huge cheer for the drivers. Delighted with that they are. Thank you, David, for making the presentation. Let's have you all close together on the podium. A photograph first of all with all of you. There we go. Ricardo Van Der can't wait to celebrate and have a little champagne, but we have a photograph first of all 6 of the drivers on.
So the GT4 drivers there, with Adam Christodoulou in the centre with the trophy and the white overalls. Very happy man. A Brit wins in GT4. The British GT4 element of the race being run with the European GT4 trophy, which is why we have a very big GT4 entry, and we started with 48 cars at the beginning of the weekend. We lost one in free practice, but we did lose one before the race started, a couple of cars in fact, struggling with mechanical dramas after the warm-up. So as the champagne is sprayed by the GT4 victors, then a fresh set of trophies and bottles of champagne prepared for the GT3, the outright podium as well. Adam Christodoulou, another man that we see in the Blancpain Endurance Series, now carving a name for himself in GT racing, having raced Formula Renault UK in this country. Then he went off to America, raced in Star Mazda for a time, and the drivers then from GT4 head off the podium. And we've had some tremendous racing in that. In fact, of course, it was closer at the end in GT4 than GT3, but Porsche defeating BMW in GT4. BMW defeats everybody in GT3 as the drivers then make their way to the podium, and Ollie Bryant and his co-driver Marco Attard ready to make their way up to the top step, and BMW's first and third. So are we ready? See the drivers gathering behind the podium. So as the fans wait ready for the cars to be released for the next race, the winning drivers are about, I think, to make their way onto the podium. Not quite sure for why they have been delayed, but anyway, the drivers are just about ready, I think, to go. And out they come, Steve Tandy and Dan Brown for their third place, for second, Johnny Adam and Andrew Howard. Out they come. And then the top step, which will go the way of Oliver Bryant and Marco Attard. Out they come, a very happy Marco Attard. Ollie Bryant having done a sterling job to bring the car home. Not put a wheel wrong in that last stint, which was a fairly tense last stint, as Marco Attard said. Steve Tandy then, along with Dan Brown, collecting his trophy. I said to Steve yesterday, what's the BMW like compared to the Porsche? He said, well, bearing in mind Porsches have won all the previous 3 races, run by the team I used to drive for. Better not answer that just yet, but that's his best result of the season. I think he'll be pretty pleased with that, and this a good circuit for BMW, as you've seen, first and third. And the Aston Martin of Andrew Howard and Johnny Adam, a good solid run, keeping out of trouble, and the pace has been there. And again, Johnny Adam underlining his ability. He had his spell in the British Touring Car Championship, but won on the road, but was then penalised, never won again, and we never perhaps saw the best of him in touring cars. But in GT racing, he's very much making a name for himself, and in all cases there you've got a very good Pro-Am spread. You've got 3 very successful businessmen, 3 very quick co-drivers that all go together to make up the strongest domestic GT championship. And the drivers now take the corks out the top of the bottle, and also making their way up onto the podium are Mark Poole and Richard Ambra as the drivers of the weekend for some excellent drives in the Gentleman Trophy class as well. So everybody's there, and the champagne, I think, is just about ready to spray. On track, there are cars for the APR Volkswagen Racing Cup. We're going to come to that race very shortly indeed. We had a very exciting first one. Race 2 should be a cracker as well, as the GT drivers can celebrate after 3 long, hard hours full of drama, full of tension at Silverstone at the end of round 4 of the championship.